Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome from wherever you are joining us around the world. This one is going to be exciting. We, of course, are Racing Club International, and what we bring you is some fine motor racing in the simulator world. And tonight, we've got something special. Of course, the GT4s out at Laguna Seca. Two 30-minute sprint races are the race format tonight. One qualifying session decides their grid order for both races. And I am joined by a new voice who I have not done comms with, but I'm super excited to introduce Simon Huber alongside me in the box. Simon, how are you doing, dude?
I'm very well, thank you, George. Thanks for that warm introduction, and welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. As George says, we're about 2 hours south of San Francisco at the world-famous Laguna Seca, home to the infamous corkscrew. So wherever you're watching from, make sure you've got your supplies next to you, because you're not going to want to take your eyes off the screen for a second.
Absolutely incredible advice. Do not miss a second here. You've got 4 minutes to go and get yourselves prepared. Free practice doesn't count for anything when it comes to the race. It just gives us a little indicator of who's maybe peaking at the top, who's perhaps sandbagging down at the bottom. It's all about the qualification round, and right now, 4 minutes on the clock as Andre Felix makes his way up to that corkscrew that Simon talked about. As you can see, the elevation drop dips away and the road twists to the right, and you've got to really just find the edges of grip, make sure that you've got the car under a stable race condition. Otherwise, you're going to be punished quite severely. So Andre Felix going to come down towards the final right-hander just before the pit entry. And the number 88, Camaro, will in fact decide that he'd rather build sandcastles on the exit of the final corner. Simon, so tell me a little bit here. The track looking a little bit warm today. So is that something kind of about Laguna Seca in general? It's a warm kind of condition normally?
Yeah, it's generally really hot out here all of the time, and today is no exception. The track temperature is reading around about 37 degrees C. So what that's going to mean for the cars and the drivers is the track could possibly get greasy and a little bit slippy. And as you say, this track bites back if you get too close to the edges here. There's not a lot of runoff before you hit the sand.
I think that's exactly that. The runoff in the sand is something that it kind of goes hand in hand with Laguna Seca. If you've raced it as a sim racer, I'm sure in the real world it's a lot more expensive to make mistakes. But as a sim racer, if you do get into the sand here, it grips you up, it punishes you really hard. So you can't even extend the track limits. You've got a little bit of runoff on the exits of the apexes, but beyond that, you do have to keep it between the lines. And at doing so, it kind of tends to be one of those circuits where there's not a lot of overtaking opportunities. So the qualification session that these guys are going to go in, it's not only going to be super critical if it was just a regular race, but the fact that they've got two back-to-back 30-minute sprint races, all decided by a single qualification, that means that one is going to be of utmost importance.
Yeah, driver concentration is going to be paramount here for sure. Like Laguna Seca is a pretty old school circuit, very similar to sort of old school British circuits and your traditional sort of Road America, Road Atlanta circuits. It's kind of a follow my leader type of a situation, and a lot of the time moves happen when someone just sends it, they just jam it up the inside. And I've watched some car racing around here and a lot of bike racing around here, and definitely sending it is the way forward.
I think I always tend to refer to it as almost the American Brands Hatch to me, when especially in the ACC calendar, those two tracks sort of comparable out there, very short, sprinty lap times. Carl Mathers showing exactly why you don't want to put a tire off onto the dirt. He's going to damage up the side of that Cayman GT4, and he's going to have to return to the pits to repair it up. Luckily, just the end of free practice that we're actually watching out here, and quali going to come underway. And it's a quick qualification session, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's only 10 minutes. So, I mean, it's going to be really important to get yourselves out on track, get a bit of fresh air, and make sure you can bang in a decent banker lap, and then maybe chase for, the top times after that. 18 cars currently on the grid. So, you know, it's good to see some GT4s getting some love. RCI always putting out, you know, some feelers to see what people want to drive. And of course, the DLC that dropped, giving us the GT4s, has given us not just GT3 cars were just the name of the game in ACC. It was like the go-to in simulation for GT3 car classes. And then the GT4s came out, added the exact same levels of detail, obviously down into the GT4s. But they just haven't really picked up the traction, Simon. And, you know, I've sort of fathomed over it. You know, do people want to just drive the faster cars? Do you think that might be it?
I think, generally speaking, people may sort of see the GT3 cars as having a little bit more prestige. They're obviously a lot more powerful. They have more downforce and such. But the GT4 class generally is quite good racing. They're more production orientated cars. They're not quite as wide. They don't have the same sort of aero. But they still produce really, really good racing. And for me, I like to see different shapes, different sounds out on track, and certainly the addition of the GT4 pack to ACC was a welcome addition, as far as I could tell.
Different shapes, different colors. The KTM crossbow of Billy Octane sort of checks all those boxes as he makes his way out of the pit lane. The number 33 Triple R will put himself out towards the front of this pack. He will be our car that we follow along with to observe to see what he does. Also gives us the opportunity to do an onboard with him when we go over to his hot lap. So right now, they're just out trying to get some temperature into their tires, get some temperature into the brakes, and try and set themselves up to obviously start attacking this qualification session. As you can see, that timer starts at 10 minutes. That's it's not 10 minutes from when you cross over the line to do your first lap. It's 10 minutes from the word go. So if you sort of stall it out in the pit box, you haven't quite got your quali setup loaded up, you might find yourself caught up a little bit later. You only get round. You've only got sort of 6 minutes before you start your hot lap. Those are all situations that are in the driver's control. Right now, Billy Octane, though, is going to come up to the final corner, and this will be the beginning of the run up to the start-finish line, and this will be an onboard with the Triple R number 33 as he makes his way up the hill down towards the first left-hander, the Andretti hairpin, and a very easy place to make or break moves. I feel like this is a good overtaking place indeed. He'll then make his way up to the next complex of corners. The right-hander, again, just going to try and feather the throttle, make sure that you keep it on the lines, maybe use a little bit of the apex on the exit. Then again, another right-hander, very careful of that sand on the left side that Simon and I have talked about. Catches you out, the gravel trap will punish you. And then the very long left-hander before you set yourself up, before you start to make your climb. And this is where the elevation change starts to occur. You start to make yourself up towards the hairpin at the top. And Octane very wide in his KTM. Does touch a little bit of the dirt, but he will now make his way up to the corkscrew. And this is where, again, just going to make sure you get a clean exit through. Octane doing exactly that. And it's just short little throw lap. Only 2 more corners for Octane to go. We'll start to see, Simon, our times on the leaderboard after this. And then it's attack from the word go from there. Drivers will try and stack themselves up. And I think you need to try and get yourselves towards the front. You've got 2 races to go. Billy Octane races out of the final corner, across towards the start-finish line, and he will go over the line. He won't set a lap because he invalidated on that exit, but Varga will set a time. He will set a 1:31.164, but Martin Ulrich will top the leaderboard with the pole sitting 1:30.870.
Yeah, you're really going to have to exit the pit lane with your gunpowder setting dialed right in from the word go. I mean, we're almost down to halfway through this session now, and we're only just starting to record fast laps now for people. The other thing to consider with this track, only being 2.2 miles long, is track position is key. So you don't want to come out of the pit ready to do your hot lap and then find yourself you're stuck behind someone that's doing an out lap or an in lap or something like that. That could really balk you for the rest of your lap and really hamper you on the grid position. And as we were saying before, where this track is one line. There's a few places to sort of send it. As I keep saying, the Andretti hairpin is one, the corkscrew is another. Grid position is going to be absolutely key. So you want the best track conditions with the clearest lap possible for your ultimate pole time.
Clear lap conditions, probably not something these guys are going to be afforded too much luxury of. They don't have much time to time where they can come out. Andre Felix has done a good job in that number 88 Camaro. We saw him in the practice session, and right now gets himself a pole sitting 130.348 ahead of Martin Ulrich. We'll make that Billy Octane. Billy Octane will jump into second place. So 130.855 comes out, and he will be immediately dropped down again by Martin Ulrich. So these two are just fighting it out tooth and nail, and it will be Sundstrom to actually jump up into second place. So nobody yet to catch up to Felix, but Sundstrom, Ulrich, Octane have all put in lap times that have topped one another in the last couple of seconds. McCall, he's into the top 5. Matcha, Gant, Berg, Varga, Adams round out the top 10. And then we've got Daly, Mathis, Jonah, Banks, who have set lap times. Rodriguez, Voigt, Bench, and Jeff and Gill have yet to go out and set times. 4 minutes on the clock. He talked about it, Simon. Not a lot of time for those guys to go and do something, so they better be out on track. You can see they're not in the pit lane, but they're leaving it to the very, very last minute. Kind of like how I left my school homework.
Yeah, you and me both. So you're talking about times there. So if we have a look at the times that we've got at the moment, we're talking less than 2 seconds covering all the way back down to sort of 13th, 14th place, where the top 5 and 6 are really just splitting tenths, really. So this is going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a battle all race long. For these guys right now, qualifying, they haven't got time to come into the pits and mess around with their settings. They really have just got to pound the laps out and just work with what they've got. And that's kind of the interesting thing, I suppose, when you've got these short qualifying sessions and a track like Laguna Seca, where the sort of risky approach can be rewarded, but it's not going to take too much for the track to bite you in the backside. If you get it ever so slightly wrong, the punishment very rarely fits the crime around Laguna Seca.
These guys are going to have to really be careful of how they put themselves in the race conditions for sure. But I think what you touched on, the GT4 class being a little bit more relatable to the consumer level cars, the levels of aero not quite as advanced, and it does create some good racing. So I'm glad that we can be out here at Laguna Seca having a GT4 only event and get to kind of test the pace of what the different manufacturers can do. A whole host of manufacturers being picked up here. It's not like you can really just say that people have kind of excluded things. There's a host. If you are a fan of any of the manufacturers, you're going to get a good taste of everything. But the Octane currently 2 tenths up on his lap time as he exits out from the corkscrew. This is looking like a good lap for him. Is it going to be good enough? He's kind of eased off and slowed down a little bit. I think he may have made a small mistake, and he's going to set himself up for another lap. He's got 2 minutes and 10 seconds on that timing sheet. Needs to make this one count. That last one wouldn't be the one. Currently sits in 3rd place. And as we look towards what we can see on the timing sheet side of things, everybody currently trying to do their best. Jeff up on his Delta, Matcha up on his Delta, Adams up on his Delta. So a couple of guys finding some time. And Jeff's name here, I mean, he hasn't got a first name really registered, but we just read him as A. Jeff.
He certainly is a Jeff. So as you were saying there, the top 6 spots are filled by 6 different manufacturers. So there isn't really a one size fits all type of a situation around Laguna Seca where one car is going to be more dominant than the other. And as you were sort of saying there, George, I think that sort of is a product of the GT4 category in itself. One of the things that they can't change with the GT4s is the gearbox. It's a production-based gearbox, it's similar to, or the same as what you'd find in the road car. So some of these cars are going to work better at other tracks than they do at other tracks. But for some reason around Laguna Seca, it seems that they're showing up the strengths and weaknesses of all the different manufacturers over the course of a lap. And what that means for us and what that means for everybody watching at home is that we are definitely going to get some great racing around this legendary circuit.
It's a good observation indeed. I mean, you do see some more variation normally between the car classes, and you see something coming out a little bit more dominant. But yeah, it's exactly that. So Laguna Seca, kind of the perfect balancing point to give us that close knit racing. And with the track temperature increasing as the time wears on, it's just going to get warmer and warmer. The tires are going to scream, and as the tires scream, we get more interesting racing. So on board with Voigt Bench at the moment in that number 20. And he's currently chasing down the likes of Andre Felix in that number 88 Camaro. He's gone very wide on the exit, and that is going to invalidate his lap time. That's actually going to be the last lap that he's going to be able to set, because the qualification time has hit that 0 position. What that means is for the drivers out on track that are able to finish off their laps, they are going to Matcha 410s up here, going to jump over the line, gets up to 8th place with a 1:30.594. The Connection Lost Racing Mercedes. Not going to be sad with that. You can see, Simon, quite a lot of cars in the pits. That means that potentially we're looking at the finishing leaderboard.
Yeah, definitely. And that was a bit of a scorcher of a session. The pole time at the moment is a 1:29.9, which is an astonishing time around here. Definitely a fast pace around this tiny little circuit. And I think it's definitely hotting up to be an exciting race. We're just going to watch the Camaro come over the line. This is our pole sitter, and he stays with a 1:29.7 was his last time, but it must have been invalidated because it's not been recorded in the timing tower. So, but I mean, he's already done enough. He's going to be sitting at the front of the grid. He's definitely going to have the best position going into the race when those lights go out. We'll just have to see how the rest of the field can bring it to him over the course of the first 30-minute race.
Indeed. So I mean, they've got a 30-minute race ahead of them now. Then they've got a little breather, and then they've got another 30-minute race. So a lot of them used to doing 60-minute stints. I think a lot of them used to doing more than 60-minute stints. We're known here to do some of the endurance races as well. This is the sprint format, the GT4s. I think this is what they're best at as well. I mean, you don't want to have a GT4 race out for 90 minutes. It's not really what they're going to be doing here. 30 minutes sprints, decides the winner, and then they do it all again. So for Andre Felix, who is going to start up at the front, Simon, I mean, he's going to be pretty chuffed. He gets 2 attempts at this. So even if he loses out the whole shot on the first attempt, he's kind of got redemption for the second race.
Yeah, definitely. For me, the start of the races, and this is obviously the case of most races, but is surviving turn 1 and 2. It really can get bunched up in that Andretti hairpin. The Laguna Seca itself, they call the start-finish straight a straight, but it really isn't. It's a continual sort of left-hand turn. So, and there isn't really a resting place around this circuit. And that combination with a 30-minute race means that these guys are going to have to turn it on instantly. They haven't got the first stint to kind of bed themselves into the session. They've got to, again, dial in their gunpowder setting and just hit it straight off the bat. And I think that's going to be kind of interesting for the drivers that are used to doing longer races that perhaps can't turn it on quite so quickly. I mean, from your experience commentating on other RCI races, how do you think the sort of quick fire nature of this series is going to affect these drivers?
I mean, I've had the absolute honor of casting pretty much a lot of sim races. I haven't been able to do a series quite like this, so it's going to be new to me. I think that it's still kind of, we take points away from what we've seen in other series, that you really do have to rely on second and third place to keep first place honest if you want to have a good race with the front order. Quite often, second and third get caught up in their own battles, and first gets a nice run away from things, and you get this sort of breathing room up from the front towards the mid pack quite early on. I think if everybody kind of settles into their train formation, starts to, settle in early and then plan attacks, I think that's always going to be the name of the game for them to benefit later on. I know as racing drivers, you're trying to make moves in T1, 2, 3, but that's not really where things are generally won. And I say that from an endurance perspective. But now with a 30-minute sprint race, maybe they don't have time to settle in. Maybe they don't have, all of those things that I've just mentioned, and it's just going to be a knife fight from the blow of the whistle.
Yeah, I mean, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there, and it's you do definitely want sort of the rest of the pack to kind of almost sort of form a mini alliance at the beginning of the race and kind of work together so they can keep first place honest. I think the sort of continual curves or the continual corner nature of this circuit is could see that we do get some breakaway packs during the course of the race. I hope that isn't the case up the front. We definitely do want to keep first place honest. The times in qualifying and certainly the times in free practice would seem to suggest that these guys can all run with each other. But it's if they keep getting caught up in their own skirmishes, you're going to lose 1 or 2 tenths per corner. You're not going to be on the ideal line. You're going to be slowing each other down a little bit, and then that's when you can get the sort of runaway breaks. So let's keep our fingers crossed that the rush of the blood to the head isn't too substantial right at the very beginning of the race, and these guys can keep that bright orange Camaro honest.
I always feel like I want the guys to work together. I try and get that across, but it's very difficult for racing drivers, isn't it, to form that mini alliance. They know that they probably should at the back of their heads, but the opportunity to maybe go alongside someone early on opens itself up, and you take the entry, and then next thing you're side by side for what is a quarter of this lap, and you've then lost a couple of tenths to the cars in front. The cars behind you have caught up and got themselves sort of bottlenecked, and it creates the narrative of the race. So, I don't want to say that I want a certain thing to happen, because when we sign up to these things, we sign up for the complete randomness that is sim racing. And, with no pit stops for these guys to serve, it is just a sprint all the way through. Not often that we don't have a mandatory pit stop in an RCI race. So these guys are literally pulling off from here, and it's going to be non-stop from when they get back to this point. Line up in 2x2 formation for that rolling start and get things underway. But for now, Simon, a bit of breathing room. We get to calm our nerves, because I'm sure they're doing the same thing in their cars. But they go out in single formation. They warm up their tires. They of course don't start on those pit boxes with any of the tire blankets, so they start with cold tires. 34 degrees on track. Not going to take long for that to warm up, but it has been said that these formation laps aren't quite enough to get these cars up to race-ready temperatures, and that is just going to make for a chaotic Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, 100%, particularly with the new tyre model that was introduced this week. It takes a little bit longer to get these tyres up to temperature, so these guys have got to work hard on this sighting lap to try and get some heat into the brakes, get some heat into the wheels themselves, because that will radiate out into the tyres to sort of help get the temperatures and the pressures up to where they need to be, up to their racing optimum. And yeah, interesting point about the driver mentality. The logical part of your brain is saying we need to work together on this. We definitely need to we want to progress. We need to sort of form those mini alliances, as I called it. But then you've got your lizard/monkey brain that's just saying, you just want to beat the guy that's next to you, and you want to be the one to tow him around, not the other way around. And that definitely does make for some interesting racing. That's why we love motorsport, the unpredictable nature of it. You never know what's going to happen. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this now as they sort of form up a bit, as they start to make their way through the famous corkscrew, which I keep talking about. It's a 5.5-story drop as you move through the corkscrew, which is incredible. The cameras really do flatten out that, although that's actually a pretty good shot of it there. You can sort of get a bit of the elevation change there. And as they come out of the corkscrew, it's like being fired out of a gun down to Rainy Curve, named after the great Wayne Rainey. He's a 500cc Grand Prix champion on of the two-wheel varieties. They fire down to turn 10, and they finish off into 10, 11 to round the corner onto the start finish straight in air quotes. Yeah, I am ready to get this race underway now.
Absolutely. Race director giving the drivers direction to get themselves lined up into that 2x2 formation. And the GT4s do just that. They'll back themselves up together, make their way out through that final corner and onto that air-quoted start-finish straight. The pit boxes are there. This is a sign that we're going to go racing, waiting for the green lights to go. And 30-minute sprint race number 1 has started. Good start from Andre Felix. Gets himself up towards the front. Jeff gets a nice run on the likes of Bench as well. He's going to get himself into the inside for Andretti. It looks like it's pretty clean up towards the front. The mid-back also doing a good job at getting through that treacherous. Oh, I say that. There is a collision, a little bump and a wide. And there are drivers making avoidance maneuvers. They have gotten themselves through, but there is definitely a car parked facing the wrong direction for Bench. He's been robbed off the start. He's going to settle into 3rd place in that Cayman and keep the charge up towards the cars in front of him.
Yeah, they did really well to get through the Andretti hairpin with only a minor little skirmish right at the very beginning, and they've sort of formed out into quite a nice procession around the track now. So I'm expecting the drivers maybe just to, as I said, maybe settle in for a lap or a half a lap. Always being cognizant of the fact that they've only got 30 minutes and there are no excuses about strategy or pit stops or taking too long or whatever else. It's just the driver, their car, their skill, their talent, getting them around the race circuit as fast as they can do, trying to chase down the person in front, and all the while staying away from the treacherous sandy edges of the track, because the BMW just nicks a little bit extra off the curb there as he makes his way down into the final turn, beginning to start his 2nd lap.
So there's been some chaos and some changes of position on the opening round. David Gill here in that number 80 KTM crossbow. He's at the back of the order, chasing down the likes of Berg in front of him. Andrew Berg in that number 904 is doing a decent job. Gill here very much out of position in terms of his split, so caught up behind all the silver cars. And I mean, that must have been the KTM crossbow caught out in the turn 1 incident. Not 100% confirmed, but, you know, that's what I would perhaps suss out has happened. Oh, we're going to see another Cayman. Oh, that Cayman is whipping and wide. Oh, number 86, that's Mathers. Carl Mathers. He must have touched some dirt because he was on a tank slapper. Here we're going to get a replay from our race director, Nick Setnick, and he does. Keeps it pinned down, comes across the track. Oh,
my Lord.
How did he miss
Oh, my Lord. Wow.
I mean...
I don't know what's going to say there.
Can we get avoidance of the day coming out there from maybe everyone else in the field? Because I don't think Carl Mathers had absolutely anything to do with the fact that he didn't collect another car. I mean, he was like, you know, when you turn the hose pipe on full and you haven't quite got the end and the nozzle's going wild in the garden, that's exactly what Mathers' Porsche looked like. And I'm glad that he didn't connect anyone else, because that would have ended someone else's race there today. Billy Octane up into, well, he's in 8th at the moment. He started in 6th, so he's dropped 2 positions at the start, as far as I know. Can correct me if I'm wrong, but the number 33 is currently caught up, trying to chase down the likes of Bart Matcha in front, and he's got Mikhail Sundstrom, or is it Ulrich in front of him? It looks like it's Ulrich that is sitting in 6th place.
Yeah, that was a heart in mouth moment there as the Cayman sort of whipped around violently. Driver there did very well to kind of hang on to it as best he can. He was kind of a semi-passenger, semi-not passenger, and everybody else did a really good job of avoiding getting collected there, which was really good to see. So the race, we got another one off. We got the Cayman off now, and this is what we've been talking about. Was he pushed, or did he do it all by himself? Let's see what happened here. I think there's a slight touch, just gets nerfed out slightly by the M4, and it whips him back round onto the dirt. And so there isn't a lot of room for margin around the circuit, as we kept on saying. And that combined with a narrow track and a few overtaking opportunities means that you have got to put some hard passes in, and sometimes you're going to rub a few doors. But this isn't a flower arranging competition. This is motor racing, so we've got to expect that. I kind of like it when it's close racing. I don't like to see anybody's race get ruined by irresponsible driving, but some spirited driving, let's say, is very welcome from my perspective as they start their next lap. This is going to be tight down into the Andretti hairpin. Are they going to make it through okay?
Banks and Rodriguez pushing the limits there, and it looks like it's going to benefit all the cars behind them as well. Looks like Daly in that M4 going to try and sneak his way in as well in the number 197. But it is all about trying to push the limits. I think you hit the nail on the head. Oh, too much limits for Jordan Daly. And he is going to find the wall, little bounce off, and back onto circuit he goes. The middleman, number 197, back into the racing line, but going to be very slow on the exit. The Camaro, the 273, going to get by the number 86 of Matthews. Also going to be looking to try and find a way through. A contact like that on the wall. Oh, I say this. I was going to say maybe not going to have the run up, but he is going to go side by side with Adams up into the hairpin. Does he outbrake himself? And the corkscrew is going to benefit the BMW on the exit. So Jordan Daly was further up the field, of course, before he caught this. So it might be above on turns, or in terms of pace, on the likes of Adams. But, I mean, Simon, do you think he's picked up some considerable damage after that?
I'm not entirely too sure. I think there was some rubs, and I don't think it was anything too bad. Did he slam into the wall?
Yeah, he did bounce off
the wall, didn't he? So yeah, I mean, it was along the side of the car though, so maybe he's got some geometry damage, something like that might affect his top speed. But I mean, he was not giving that plate up in the corkscrew. That was definitely a case of an M4 peg going through a Camaro-shaped hole, and he was not going to give up that corner without a fight whatsoever. And that's exactly what we like to see. But we've had a couple of demonstrations there where, we keep coming back to it. The drivers are trying to search for every single inch of racetrack to use to get them around the circuit as fast as possible. And when they're trying to search for every single inch, they're going to go over it, definitely. And when they go over it, they're going to get an extreme drop in traction. And that's what we're seeing here with these wild tank slappers and occasionally people making friends with tyre barriers and walls where they shouldn't be, perhaps.
The stewards glancing over at us, furiously at work in the booth opposite to us as commentators. And, of course, Jake Boswell shaking his head maybe at some of the moves that we've seen go down. And you know what? If it's untowards in the eyes of the stewards, they will not let it go unpunished. And a big shout out to our stewarding team, of course, giving us the live stewarding abilities that we have here. So for now, nothing has come out in terms of what is going to be handed out from them. But as things stand, the racing continues. 22 minutes are left of this race. We've had 8 minutes of the sprint race already. It's felt like, a lap has gone by, but it's certainly been a lot more. Albert Arjona currently in the number 12, in 12th place. Oh, some penalties are starting to... It's like, I can predict it, Simon. I start to talk about there being... no penalties, ta-da-da-da-da. Suddenly Berg has a 5-second penalty.
That is a shame, but obviously the stewards have felt that his actions were potentially a bit too aggressive, and the steward's word is law in this instance, so you've got to respect that. And just to echo your sentiments about the stewarding team, we're really grateful to have those guys along and doing the live stewarding for these races. One thing I was just thinking about then actually was I don't think this race is long enough for us to run into any lapped traffic, which is something I was thinking about before we came on air as another dynamic. But I think these guys are so closely matched on time, and the cars, obviously being GT4 cars, are slightly slower than the GT3 cars, so possibly not lapping the circuit at a fast enough pace to generate that lapped traffic. which is one less thing that these guys have to worry about, I suppose. So that's kind of an advantage to doing the sprint racing, but action-packed nonetheless. I mean, I was expecting a bit of a ding-dong right from the very get-go, and I don't think we've been disappointed at all with that.
No, it's certainly been interesting indeed. So that penalty confirmation report coming up from our stewards, of course. Incident on lap 1, turn 1, involving the number 4 and the number 904. That 5-second time penalty goes to the number 904, as you can see on the screen. As we mentioned earlier, the 904 takes out the number 4, but gives back the position. So that is why Berg has now got that 5-second penalty. And of course, without being able to serve that into or in the pits, you will have that added onto your race time. Matcha here trying to get positions back with Ulrich. Ulrich having a good run on Mikkel Sandstrom earlier on. There is going to be a little touch on the back end. The number 41 going to do a little pirouette and be spun around. Bart Matcha is going to wait it out. But this was a little look at the top towards the corkscrew and just under brakes. Couldn't get the AMG slowed down. Was going towards the inside apex. And at that sort of place, you are but a little rocket ship sometimes. And nothing was going to slow him down enough there. And unfortunately, Ulrich going to lose out his race position quite heavily, because not only did he get touched and spun around, but also came into contact with the wall and was facing the wrong direction. So it's a lot to get the car back on track and make sure you come out safely. And as you can see, he's dropped all the way down to last place, which plays into what Simon said. You do not have much margin for error in a field like this. If you do get caught out, you find yourself towards the bottom. Andre Felix, he's yet to have the pressure on him, but the likes of Morgan McCall in that 888 from ATK, he's starting to chase down. So maybe a little numbers game going on here, Simon. What do you think? The number 88 chasing down, or chased down by the 888? I mean, is a little bit of number collusion going on, perhaps?
I definitely think so. I think you've got the 888 there has taken just over a tenth, or just under a tenth, sorry, out on that lap. I think what he needs to do now is, he's doing the hard work at the moment. He just needs to keep focusing, keep hitting his markers, not make any mistakes. And sometimes when you're driving around and you just see the same grille in your rear view mirror and it's there corner after corner, lap after lap, that can start to sort of erode your concentration a little bit, and you start to make a few mistakes here and there, and those few mistakes can add up to tenths, and and as we've seen plentiful in this race, they can add up to more than tenths if you take an off-track excursion, for sure, which is going to hamper your progress.
So Morgan McCall just going to try and find some lap times up towards the front in the mid-pack. The likes of Joseph Varga in that 221. He's got Billy Octane's number 33 KTM Crossbow all over the back end in the triple R colors, coming out strong again. Billy not going to paint his car a wrong color and let me call him a back marker like I did in the Aston Martin series. I saw his name on the timing sheet. I looked at the cars, Simon. It was not painted in this, bright color scheme. And I thought to myself, no, there's no ways that's some back marker that they've overtaken. And it actually was Billy. So he called me out on it. And I said, well, if your triple R doesn't have the triple R colors, how are we meant to do it? And as commentators, you kind of rely on those kind of things. Look at Billy getting all over the back end of Varga into the corkscrew. Might have to just lift off and give himself some breathing room. Can't run into the back and cause a collision as the car following. It's all your responsibility to make sure you get through safely. And Octane just going to sit and wait maybe in what is the limited slipstream to try and get alongside in the on that start-finish straight, maybe into the braking zone for the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, and I think we just saw there a little mistake by Varga, and that allowed Octane to close in right on him. And we're back now following Banks in the very pretty Ginetta. And as I said at the top of the broadcast, I really do like the different shapes and sounds of the different cars that we've got in here. And you couldn't get two more different cars than the Ginetta and the Crossbow, I don't think. Personally, I'm more in favour of the more Ginetta type shaped cars than I am the
I wonder why you're a Ginetta fan. I wonder why.
So
Is there Ginetta a British manufacturer at all?
I thought, are they British? I thought they were Italian.
Are they
I thought,
Italian?
I don't know. Well, that's something we'll have to investigate and look at in race two
Oh,
as
oh,
the
oh,
Cayman
oh,
gets
oh!
sideways. Oh,
Ooh,
it doesn't
Code
get much
Brown
closer than
moments.
that. No,
No,
that was.
Andrew Berg is he's licking wounds at the moment, and the driver's behind. Oh, it's the same place again. Oh,
Oh,
no,
God, yeah,
no.
that's going to hurt his feelings.
And again, he just has to feel the pain of waiting for everybody to come through. He's also, of course, got that 5-second penalty to his name. So if he doesn't find himself right at the tail end of the stick, he certainly.
Contact again
Ooh.
between the Ginetta and the Aston Martin. What happened there?
I mean,
It's all getting feisty.
It's. I mean, this is the knives and forks are out to play with. There was a little bit of oversteer coming out from that Aston Martin there. That I don't think the car behind him could quite adjust to at that point. He looked like he just kind of was following, expecting him to be carrying a lot more speed through, and the oversteer caught him off guard.
Yeah,
I've got another incident report, Simon, to read out here, and that of course goes out to that 197. So that was between the 197 and the 273, lap 3, turn 5. The 197 taps the 273 wide. The 273 spins out of track by being over aggressive. So a reduced penalty.
Those German marks are not making any friends out there. We've had a Porsche and a BMW.
Recused penalty? I mean, to be honest, there's words that are being used here that I actually don't know the meaning of. So I just read something that I reduced.
Recused penalties. I mean, it's been pulled.
No, it's actually, to be honest, I read the slip wrong. It was reduced. I just have terrible eyesight, and it was a reduced pass. So I mean, I thought I was learning new things. I wasn't learning new things. Well, I learned that I should probably go to the optometrist for a checkup.
An optometrist followed by a bookstore to pick up a dictionary, so we can both learn what that word means. So those cars have both picked up 5-second penalties. I don't think it's going to affect the race too much at the moment. They're obviously running around at the back of the field now. As we focus back in on the Crossbow and the Ginetta, as this battle looks like it's heating up now as across the start-finish line for yet another go-round. Let's see if the Crossbow can make any inroads into the Ginetta. And I think he is. I think he's going to close him down. And again, it's just about putting pressure on the person in front. I think sometimes when you're at a track where there's limited places to overtake, part of the skill that you sort of need, or the tool that you need in your toolbox, is to be able to apply pressure to sort of find the chinks in the armor of the guy in front and to really exploit them so that they present you with the overtaking opportunity. Rather than having to try and send it up the inside and risk incurring the wrath of the stewards for over aggressive driving there. But we weren't wrong. This is hotting up to be a great race. It's been action packed, and I cannot believe we've only got 12 minutes to go before the end of the race. It feels like I've just sat down 2 laps ago in the commentary booth to commentate on what has been a absolute spectacle. I've enjoyed every single second of it.
I could not agree more, because you know what? With 12 minutes to go, 11 minutes to go, then got a little small break for the drivers and they go over to their second race. Andre Felix is not going to care about that, though. He wants to see things away. We're going to see a drive-through penalty coming out as well to Bart Matcha. So we're going to get an update on what happened there. As far as I understand, that was on lap 7, turn 8. The number 55 was involved with the incident with the number 41. The number 55 spun the 41, and that was what we saw with Ulrich at the corkscrew, right? That was Matcha missing the braking points.
Yeah.
And a drive-through going to come out for Matcha, which I think is very much fair in the circumstances that were there. Look at where it's costed Ulrich to
Yeah.
be, and I think the stewards there are going to exercise the full power that they've got to, you know, kind of issue something that adds a little bit of balance to the field. I mean, it doesn't put Martin Ulrich back in place, does it?
No, unfortunately not, but we can't sort of turn back the hands of time and sort of correct for that. I don't think there was anything, any sort of malintention with the maneuver. I think he maybe missed his braking marker a little bit, and it's one of those situations where you sort of approaching the blind hill, the road's dropping away from you, your brakes going to become less efficient as the car unweights over the crest. And you're a bit of a passenger, and unfortunately for him, the track goes left, so the BMW was always going to go left, and they ended up meeting in a really unfortunate way. And it's a bit unfortunate for Ulrich, as I said. It's kind of sort of ruined his race a little bit. The drive-through penalty does kind of even things out from a sort of a moralistic perspective, I guess, but unfortunately it doesn't sort of put the BMW back up into the place that it might otherwise have occupied had the incident have not happened.
I think there's times and places where you attempt something, you make a mistake. There's all those factors at play. I think you touched on it. There was no malice intended, and the stewards also kind of see that it was a mistake, but nonetheless a mistake that cost someone else some time. So if there was malice intended, they would have handled it with very much more. It would just be removed from the server.
Yeah.
But a drive-through penalty, at least, like you said, kind of shows Ulrich like, okay, Matcha did something. It was a little bit silly, and he's now going to have to, serve out his own punishment for it. I just mentioned that, for Ulrich, it's still sad for him. Yes, the balancing factor comes out, but for someone that was having a good race up towards the front in race 1, he's now going to have to rely on race 2 to, be his real show off of what he can do. Steve Banks in that Ginetta does still have the likes of David Gill and David Adams behind him. And then, of course, Dalian Berg also in the trailing pictures. In the background there, Ulrich as well.
This is hotting up to be a good battle between these three drivers in 3 different cars, and again, it just sort of reflects back on what we were saying earlier. It's just 3 different manufacturers all battling out on track. They're all going to have a different strengths and weaknesses around the circuit. And we've got a car in the pits. It's
Mr. Billy. It is, and almost 4 laps ago, it seemed that he went into the pits. So we're not quite sure why he is pitted up but not racing, but it will hand over some free positions to other drivers. This 777 of Steve Banks, the YRA Racing Ginetta, definitely needs to find a little bit more of the gas pedal in the closing phases, because that KTM is closing in apex by apex, and very soon he's going to have to start going defensive. And what I've seen in my couple of months of commentary here at RCI is that the car in that 3rd position spot, that would be Adams, is going to benefit. And here he goes. He makes the mistake. The wide mistake comes down. And, of course, Gill will just take that instantaneously for free any day of the week. Simon, you talked about it. One of the tactics at tracks like Laguna Seca, Brands Hatch, Zolder, Zandvoort even to an extent, forcing other drivers into making mistakes, missing the braking points so that you can get yourselves past. Matcha into the pits to serve his drive-through, also going to clear it, and he's going to be exiting the pits as those cars come around. Morgan McCall, he's got Voigt bench all over the back end of his AMG. The Cayman GT4 making a climb and a dash, trying to give us a shift up in manufacturers in the spots between 2nd and 3rd. Felix going to check out with these two fighting 2.8 seconds up the road, but the 888 of McCall, 6 minutes to go. Simon, this is not where Morgan wanted to find himself.
Absolutely not. This battle is going to heat up, and it's just going to continue to heat up over the next 6 minutes, as we've got the mid-engined Cayman versus the front-engined, sort of your more classic GT, AMG GT. And yeah, these guys are going at it hammer and tong. There's not too much space between them, and a lot of the braking zones you could probably just about get a Rizzler paper in there if you forced it in there potentially. They're coming down now into the Andretti hairpin, and they are making their way around. And I think, again, we keep coming back to it. It's going to be, you got to hit your markers, you got to hit your apexes, you got to keep the pressure up on the guy in front, and you basically, if you can't outright drive past someone easily, all you can do is put yourself in a position to capitalize if and when they do make a mistake. And it's all about
I don't know how Bench just saved that after the right-hander. He took so much curb. I know the GT4s can, but that additional anti-cup on that right-hander just sent him up into a very precarious situation. I mean, we've seen cars lose control coming out of there clean, and he did a good job to just keep it between the lines. He's bled out a lot of time to the likes of Morgan, though, on the last couple of corners. I mean, it all started with the exit out of the Andretti hairpin. He ran wide, touched that sand, and that just messed up his run for those next two right-handers, where things are not as socially distanced are the fights in the mid-pack, and David Gill, with the likes of Bart Mutcher, has Adams all over the potential. I mean, not a place you want to be in that case. The KTM tucks back in. Gill is going to somehow survive that, but it will be Adams to send it through. And now Banks in that Ginetta with the charge up to the top of the corkscrew onto the brakes. They get the anchors out. They all slow the cars down. And single formation, they make their way out towards the last couple of corners. But, that is getting so close in the mid-pack. Adams, the biggest winner, gets himself up into the top 10 out of that. And the likes of David Gill going to be gatekeeping outside. He's got Banks and Ulrich starting to put some pressure on. 3 minutes 35 on the clock. And they'll begin another lap as they try and find those chinks that you mentioned, Simon. Small chinks in armor destroy entire armor pieces, and it's all about just trying to exploit those. And throughout the field, Nick Setnik will find us those battles going down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Camaro versus Camaro at the moment, and then I mean, if they make up a little bit of time, it's going to be Aston versus Camaro. And again, that is Detroit Muscle versus Midlands England elegance. Let's say, I think would probably be the word I'll describe to the Aston Martin mark there, particularly the Aston Martin Vantage. As they make their way up to the corkscrew for another time, they're going to drop down here again, down to that Waney curve, turn number 9, and they were almost inside of each other then. Could certainly probably read the time off the dashboard of the Camaro in front there. They were that close.
Certainly going to give us some shots to get excited about. We're going to see Rodriguez tucking all the way behind Gann. Onto the brakes. It's going to go for the inside braking point. Will the red Camaro get the cutback, though? Just keep your eyes on the number 14. I don't think he has what it takes. And it looks like Emigdio Rodriguez is going to get that done. So we'll get himself up another spot. Jeff is 1.5 seconds up the road from them in that Aston Martin. So he's benefiting off of this side-by-side action between the Mercedes Amacha and Arjona in that number 12 Cayman. And here comes the charge of Adams. He's late on the brakes. Does the KTM get the inside line here? He's going to squeeze and look for it if he can. I don't think he's going to quite get into the position that he wants to, but David Adams is going to have to go defensive here against the likes of David Gill. David Gill is trying to get that 10th position back. The 273 of Adams wants to say no, and there's Ulrich, the man that was right up at the front in the top 5. He started to catch up to this pack as well. So all of these drivers potentially at risk from a driver that is a lot faster on the pace side of things. If you're going to look at pure qualifying times, Felix is going to go on to the last lap. So this is going to be a dash to the line and then one more lap to go for all of these drivers. Can Adams get something done? Arjona is ahead of him in that GT4 Cayman, and potentially potentially at reach, because Adams has just been murdering spots out here, and he's been taking home no prisoners out on the track.
Yeah, I think the everybody's intentions are clear as the Cayman spins on the sand again, and that's taken a heavy hit into the barriers there. I didn't see the car number. I'm not too familiar with the paint scheme, so I can't tell you who it is.
This is our second. This is the third
the second
position.
place
Bench. Yeah. Bench against McCall. McCall going to drive away from that, and Bench going to be. He's going to be a very sad panda. He's now in 4th place. He lost the position there to Sundstrom. Sundstrom going to drive through, and that is definitely not what he wanted to see. No, David Adams. He now has to try and get something done. This is their last lap for these guys to, decide where they need to be. Ulrich is all over the back of Gill, so that's going to give some breathing room out to Adams in that Camaro. So just keep your eye on that mint M4 of, the likes of Ulrich. He's starting to put some pressure on to the, I almost called the KTM a tissue box. I didn't mean to even think that, because it's a very mean thing to say about something that someone has put time and effort into designing. But the black and orange not tissue box is going to... Oh, look at Adams on the inside of the corkscrew as he outbraked himself. The Cayman on the outside. He's taken a lot of curb. That is a lot of curb from Adams. He's taken a trip to space and come back down, and this has opened up some space for the likes of Gill. Gill gonna try and squeeze his way through here. Ulrich wants the toe, and he wants to get through if he can. Adams needs to stay defensive on the inside line. Does the KTM have a look? He needs to be careful of Ulrich on the charge. It looks like those three are going to race down to the line. But up at the front, it's Andre Felix to wrap up the win. Morgan McCall is going to come home second. A drag down to the line there between Gill and Ulrich. And Gill will come out on top. But Mikkel Sundstrom takes home 3rd place on the podium. Then it will be Bench, Jeff, Grand, Rodriguez, Matcha, Adams, and Ardrona to wrap up the top 10. David Gill, Ulrich, Banks, Matthersburg, Daly, Varga, and Octane will be the entire finishing slots. As you can see, I mean, woo!
That was pretty incredible. I'm not entirely too sure why I paid for a whole office chair when I needed the edge of the seat, because that was incredible. I really felt, and I kind of had my fingers crossed. We probably shouldn't take any sides in these types of battles, but I was really hoping for a bit of bit more of a moralistic victory for Ulrich, to see if he could try and mug that crossbow right before the end, but he just couldn't get it done. I think had he had another lap, he definitely would have got that job done. I am excited for race 2 if I can calm down from race 1. I will say that the drive from Felix up front was imperious. That was a masterclass in leading from the front. He led everybody around the entire race, and I think that's going to stand him in good stead. He's going to be obviously very confident going into race 2. But I think maybe now that everybody's sort of bedded into the track, everybody's kind of had they've had a first go of it. Let's say they're sort of going to amp themselves up, take their lessons learned from the first race, and hopefully bring that forward into the second race. And we're going to get some non-stop action for 30 minutes. But wow, that 30 minutes did go fast.
It really did go fast. I cannot wait to see what these guys have to offer for the next race as well. It is going to be incredible to see. I mean, at this point in time, I mean, that first race just flew by. I think you had it completely right. It felt like it had only just started. And right now, we are getting ourselves over and prepared for what is going to be a race to that first race. I think, Ulrich automatically became the storyteller's favorite. He got knocked out early on in the race. He had to then start from the back. He started to make his way through, got caught up with the mid-pack, and that was where he found himself out. And just unfortunate for him that he couldn't capitalize and make up a couple of positions right at the very end. I think the likes of Felix having that dominant run up at the front is also just insane. For anybody that's out there, they know that catching up to someone, making overtakes, etc., is hard enough, but staying up at the front and putting your car fast enough that you never have pressure from someone else is an entirely different storybook, because it means you're faster and more consistent in second, lap after lap for the entire duration of that sprint race.
Yeah, I don't think he dropped out of the. I don't remember seeing him drop out of the 1 minute 30s the entire race. So to keep your concentration up, yourself, the car dialed in for 30 minutes lap after lap. He was under a bit of pressure at the beginning. It looked like the number 2 car was going to maybe put some pressure on him and sort of hassle him a bit more in the race. But the Mercedes sort of pace just sort of dropped off a little bit. And it was, the sort of key to his race there was just hitting those marks and just banging out those lap times one after the other. Whereas everybody else, they didn't have the consistency to take anything to him during that race, and that was their sort of downfall, if you like. I mean, their loss was our gain, though, because that really did mean that we did see some exceptional racing throughout the course of that race. There was battles all over the place. As I keep saying, it's roll on race 2. There's not too many drivers have opted to go out for free practice. I guess they feel that they're sort of already dialed in for the race. Billy Octane, I guess, is spinning some laps just because he was in the pits for an extended period of time. We still don't know the story behind that.
So he's just making sure his car still works after spending so long in the pits whilst everyone else is still driving. So he's out there doing a bit of just some testing, making sure that his crossbow still works the way it should have when it came out of the factory. Everybody else just parked up, enjoying the probably a little bit of cool drink in their pit boxes. I mean, 38 degrees on track, 29 degrees ambient. It's cooking. If you don't have shade like that poor man and the marshal out on track, he's going to be absolutely cooking. Hope he's got his sunscreen on. But for us in the lovely air-conditioned box, lovely views that we get to see. Obviously, we can see the drivers from up here, but we also have the tele cams that show us what's happening on a track, and of course, just Billy Octane putting on a bit of a show. What Billy likes to do in the Triple R, getting some screen time for the team, as well as that well-needed practice as well. That felt like some shots fired at the very end.
I think everybody's intention was clear out of that race. And just one thing, I'd just like to give a shout out to all the marshals all around the world that make motorsport possible. Having had some experience of standing around at the side of a track all day in fireproof overalls in that sort of temperature, I can tell you it's not a pleasant experience. And being in the commentary box is a lot more pleasant than standing out. Although you do get the best seat in the house watching the motorsport, so that it swings and roundabouts. But yeah, as you say, I think shots have been fired. Everybody's intentions have been made clear. You've got to think that Ulrich is going to want to try and make up for that race. He's definitely going to want to try and find himself further up the positions there. And I think that's probably true of a lot of the cars that we see have a few accidents. A few of the Caymans had sort of made friends with the barriers. And I think people are going to see sort of race 2 as a bit of a redemption race, not to put too a grandiose term on it, but I think they're going to want to make up for missed opportunities, perhaps, and mistakes that they made. And again, the good thing about this sort of double sprint race format is that they do get a second crack of the whip, and I've got a feeling that this next race is going to be better than the first, given that people are going to take some lessons learned. The track temperature is remaining around about the same as the cars have made their way to the grid, sort of 38, 39 degrees track temperature, which is going to be greasy for sure. But yeah, things are hotting up, and I just can't wait for them to get going now.
Couple more minutes for them to now make a few setup tweaks to their cars. They've had a full race to kind of act as their telemetry data for what to expect. They'll know exactly what tire pressures need adjusting. They'll know, those small little nuances almost to the T in preparation for this next race. So it'll be interesting to see how they get away Of course, this will be the final race of the evening. Just a 2-race sprint race format. 30-minute races back to back. Little 5-minute break between for the drivers to, maybe just get themselves a sip of water, get themselves prepared. For myself, George Smith in the commentary booth alongside Simon Huber, and of course, Nick Setnick on the camera side of things, giving us the visuals as well as the broadcast direction. We just want to thank you guys for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to do race 1. Race 2 about to get underway. 3 minutes and 30 on the clock. A shout out to our partners, RaceDepartment AK Informatica, Race Face Speed Labs, and of course, Next Level Racing. This is all what it's about. Sunday night racing at its finest in what is a car class that doesn't get enough love. The GT4s out at Laguna Seca. Simon, race 2, 3 minutes to go. Are we gonna play a prediction game for who's gonna win?
It's hard not to look past Felix for the win. I've used the word imperious before, and I think that's probably the sort of right way to describe the drive that he put in. I think the other guys are going to need a little bit of a mistake from himself to keep them in contention, or they need to mug him into turn 1. Get the pressure on him straight away so he doesn't get that chance to build into his rhythm. A lot of the time, these guys, they'll start to bang in the laps, and once they get into the groove, it's sort of metronomic how they kind of just sort of roll the laps out one after the other, and they're going from point to point on the circuit. And I think if you can disrupt that somehow, that's going to be the key to sort of beating someone like Felix there in the 88 Camaro. As I said, I've got a little soft spot there for Ulrich. I'm hoping to see him a bit further up the field, maybe battling with McCall or Jeff. I think that he's going to want to, as I say, correct for the previous race. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good one around this legendary circuit. And what a better way to spend a Sunday. I don't think you'll find one.
I could not disagree with that. I think that this is the way that I want to do things. And if RCI throws events on Sundays, I'm there. Saturdays, I'm there. Any day of the week, really. I want to be there. And for now, drivers calming their nerves. Final race of the evening coming up. If you guys haven't left a cheeky like on our live stream, please can you do us all a solid favor and leave one there? If you haven't subscribed, you can do the same. I think you can even do some fancy follows and super chats. As far as I understand, our channel unlocks some fancy cool things. I'm not sure how they work. We don't get told all the facts and details. We just know there's cool things. We tell you there's cool things, and they're there for you to explore and to enjoy. And in a couple of minutes, or should I say 45 seconds, we will be pulling away for that single file formation lap once again, like we saw in race 1. Then 2x2, they'll line up and they will start their second 30-minute sprint. Nothing else to win after this. This really decides where you finish off. And unfortunately, Billy Octane going to be starting right from the bottom of the order there. He's going to have a big charge. Felix, he had the run in race 1 that he needed. Bench, he lost out to Morgan McCall later on in their little battle between the two of them. But obviously for him starting where he did, he was kind of off pace from the likes of McCall. McCall with a very good finish from where he started. So time is done, Simon. Time to stop rambling on about the drivers. They are going to get the race director's permission to peel off in single file formation.
Yeah, so it's another opportunity for these guys to warm their tyres, have a final look around the circuit, make sure they've got their reference points dialed in. Perhaps they've probably would have had to adjust them over the course of the previous race. So Felix has taken us out now in the bright orange Camaro there. We've got a couple of Caymans and a couple of Camaros at the back of the grid there, just trying to warm their tyres, just going from side to side. I'm not entirely convinced that that does anything to warm the tyres. I think it's maybe more psychological, a bit more of a placebo effect for the drivers to move
I'm
themselves from
so
side to
glad.
side.
I'm so glad we talk about that, because to me it's the same thing. And you wanna see humans being humans. One starts weaving, another will weave. Look, one
Yeah,
started the weave. Look, weave back. Look. Everyone will start to weave. You know what? I think it looks quite cool on the stream, because obviously in real life there's stuff to be said about this is warming the tires, right? I mean, they wouldn't
yeah.
just be doing it for placebo.
I don't know. So I don't know really. So for me, for my money, I would say you're better off trying to put some heat into the brakes on
Drag the
your warm up
brakes a
lap.
little.
Drag the brakes,
Yeah.
get some heat in the discs. That's going to radiate out into the
I mean
calipers, into the
that
suspension.
actually works really well in ACC. You know,
Yeah.
the last couple of corners, just dragging the brakes,
Hmm.
puts the temperature into the discs and
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
rim even, and it actually does do a better job than this pseudo weave. I think the weave just kind of it's something that you're always used to from sort of Formula One and other
Yeah.
broadcasts. You know, it's kind of it's there, but I wouldn't even argue and say that it does anything. I would sit in the same basket as you and say, you better off just coasting and saving your fuel and
Yeah.
dragging the last couple of corners, and that's all you really need to do.
Yeah. I mean,
You also you lessen the risk of doing pulling a Russell and just spinning it off into the side of the wall.
no one wants to do that on the formation lap, that's for sure. But I'm sure with race drivers with that mentality, that if someone told them to wear pink socks because it would make them go faster, they would do it. So I think someone weaves side to side, they're all going to do it just in case they're missing out on an advantage. But it's all about getting the heat into the rim, because it's not just the tire you want to heat up; it's the air inside the rim, and the wheels being made of metal are going to radiate that heat. As we're now fast approaching the start finish line, we're waiting for the lights to go green before we can head down into that turn one, which is actually on the start finish straight. And here we go, we're away. The flag is green. The cars make themselves over the crest of the hill into turn one and down into the Andretti hairpin. Now they're 3 wide going in there. Oh, we're going to get through as
Oh,
clean
look
as
at
we did in
McCall.
the first
McCall
half.
around
Oh,
the
yeah.
outside.
Oh,
McCall
he's
just went
brave.
around the outside of 3 drivers to get himself up into second place there in the background.
Incredible.
Sundstrom, he's also got himself into a good spot. Everybody getting through a lot cleaner that time round. Billy Octane has had a good start from the back. Ulrich, he's already going side to side with a couple of drivers, but that Janetta of Sundstrom on the charge, chasing down Jeff in that Aston Martin. What a good start that was from everybody involved, and this is exactly what we need to see. Look at this from 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, even the 273 of Adams, that is the 273 in 9th. So all of those drivers, less than a car tissue paper between them. Ulrich, big connection. Oh, he's going to catch a lot of people. This is danger zone.
4 cars.
Yellow
4
flags,
cars.
double yellows, double waved yellows out on the circuit for those guys. And
my man Ulrich.
Oh man, Ulrich puts a foot out, and it's been chomped up by the lawnmower entirely, and that's it. Connection comes in, slaps it round. The 273. Nothing really he could do.
No.
He was just collected up there, and
man, if Ulrich didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have luck at all. That is for sure.
Bad to worse for Martin Ulrich indeed, and he's going to rejoin the racing circuit. He is ahead of Adams, but Adams, one of the other drivers on race 1 that had an incredible race. To see him out here, not what we wanted to see. It will be Berg in the 904. Cayman put some pressure onto Daly, and of course Gill in that KTM. The door's going to open up for drivers behind. Oh, Berg. He struggles. He manages to hold on to it. That Camaro of Gand did make contact. Varga looking to get involved in that as Banks also putting on some pressure. William Gand, needs to be careful of how he re-enters the circuit here. Does get back on the number 14. Does let Arjona through as well. So it will be 17th for Gand when things update on the timing sheet. And unfortunately, look in front of that, the Janetta of Banks, he's also putting so much pressure. Varga, he is being attacked. Look at it's everywhere. Banks and Adrona are fighting it out. It is Was that Berg? Is that Berg? No, it is Arjona. No, it is Arjona in the number 12. I thought so.
That was incredible. At least the red Camaro and the red Mercedes coming together. At least the paint was the same colour, so that's the silver lining to that situation, I suppose. As we follow Banks round, coming down now into turn 11, turn 10. Sorry, turn 10. And these cars are really taking liberties with the curves, and then some. Sort of, we've seen dust get kicked up left, right, and centre as we now see Billy Octane rounding over the crest coming into turn 1 as he heads down into the Andretti hairpin, and you are definitely not going to miss that car day or night. He's done really well out of this. He started from the pits, is that right? Or he started at the back of the grid?
No, yeah, he started last. Last.
So he's made his way up into turn 7, which kind of flies in the face of our assertion earlier that qualifying was really, really important, because he seems to have hustled his way up to 7th place.
I hate it when they prove us wrong like that.
Yeah,
I hate it.
absolutely.
Yeah, Billy, can you just listen and start in last and not finish 7th and be like, oh, it was so hard to overtake. So hard. And his commentators were right. And now he's like, nah, I'm going to prove you wrong, Bruce. I'm in 7. I don't care about where I start. I'm going to get to the front.
Yeah, you're going to put this really narrow, sinuous track in front of me, and I'm just going to ignore everything he says. The AMG of Varga makes his way up, trying to put some pressure on Daly there in the M4 Coupe as they come into the corkscrew. So they drop back down the hill now. And I think that was an exciting first few laps. I don't think we've obviously seen the last of these battles. I think they're going to rage up and down the field as the race progresses. Felix is out front. He's already up to a 1.1 second lead. And as I said before they started the race, my feeling is that for someone like Felix, who seems to be able to hit his marks and stuff, you really need to keep pressure on him. As the Cayman makes a mistake, I guess he gets sideways or wide out that turn. He's lost a couple of places there. And he's going to have it all to do again now as it comes back over the hill, over the start finish line, back down into that Andretti hairpin.
So Andrew Berg facing the wrong direction there for THR Esports. And of course for them, not going to be a position that they want to find themselves. We'll have the advantage of being able to work with another driver behind. But as things stand now, it's very much what we saw race 1. Felix, McCaw and Bench. But of course, Bench lost out towards the end phases of that race, handed that over to McCaw, and we lost that battle. But these 3 are certainly keeping things honest up towards the front. Felix with some breathing room. Rodriguez under pressure from Banks in the Ginetta, corner by corner, then using some of the top end to just pull away from the Ginetta up towards the top of the corkscrew. And Rodriguez, Banks, Gand, the 3-car train that you see in the background. Berg also there in that white Cayman. He's in the background of those shots. There he comes round. A little bit, doing a little bit of sand, some smoke screen effects going down. Josef Varga in the 221. He's got the likes. He's actually got past Daly, and it's now going to be Daly looking to respond. So Jordan Daly loses out. Varga gets through. And now Daly going to be looking into the braking zone. Battle of German manufacturers. Who comes out on top here? 23 minutes will be the deciding factor. And they need to make sure that they put themselves into, it's 2 positions. The first position is obviously knowing that you're in a sprint race. So you do have to be kind of dynamic, be a little bit quicker than you are. Maybe if you've got a longer endurance stint. And then also just making sure that you've got everything right to get to the very end of the race. We've seen drivers run out of fuel. And, sometimes the first race here, Simon, it sets you up. You think, okay, cool. Maybe I can get away with a couple of liters less. And suddenly it all just falls apart because, you've been lapping completely different now. You're not in the same levels of traffic. And you find yourself running out of fuel. Hopefully that doesn't happen at the moment. It looks like the likes of Bench going to get past McCall. McCall in that 888. Going to be chasing down, but a small mistake coming out. And look at that, Simon. Was that a backwards facing KTM?
It was, yeah. It looks like a mistake at the top of the corkscrew. Easily done. It's a very, very technical turn there. Like,
Oh,
back end of the car just
oh.
done weight slightly as the track drops away from it, and he's facing the wrong way. So he's going to have a little bit of a game now to try and turn that round and get back on track, and that's going to hurt his race for sure, 100%. So where is he now? Is he in last place now? Is it Banks? It wasn't Banks, was it? Who was driving the crossbow?
The one now?
Gil, there you go. There
Gil,
you go. That's
yeah,
going to put him
Gil.
right at the back of the race. So he's got it all to do again now. So hopefully he can maybe make his way back up to Berg and Gand, potentially the number 12 Porsche. But yeah, he's got an uphill battle now as we look at the Billy Octane coming up, putting pressure on the AMG as they're making their way up towards the corkscrew.
Oh, Matchup slaps it. Oh, it's gone. He's lost it. And
he gets loose.
Oh, and yeah, a good job to keep himself facing the right way, stay away from the barriers. But a small mistake like that, and Octane gonna get that and love it. So gonna be able to then start to chase down Sandstrom, who's 3.8 seconds up the road. But oh, that was an almost lucky save coming out from that. Gand is putting some pressure onto Albert Arjona in his KTM, and then they've got Berg behind them. And Berg, I mean, we saw Berg collected after turn 11, kind of recovering off of the wall. So he was obviously more towards the front of the order, and now finds himself towards the tail end of the stick. Going to be wanting to get as many points as he can onto the board. Arjona definitely not going to be happy with having this big Camaro sitting in that rearview mirror. It can be so daunting.
So we've seen a few of these GT4 cars now make little mistakes that have caused them to sort of career across and sort of take some heavy impacts, they look like, into the barriers now. And I'm just wondering whether these cars stand up a little bit more as we are on board now with Gand as he goes down the inside. Is he going to force him wide on the exit? Who's going to make
that is a crazy place, because look at Berg. Berg's like, okay, you guys are going to go too wide. I'm going to come on the inside. Oh, little touch. Berg is going to come through on the inside. Watch Berg. Berg with the run. Berg, is he going to get it? He does. Berg through. Both the two cars in front of him touch each other. They deal with all their differences in arguable terms. We didn't quite see it as the camera people. The stewards, they've got eyes on stalks. They will be able to tell us what transpired. But the biggest news of the day is that Berg jumps past those two and will now be able to continue to extend, leaving Gand and Arjona to fight for track position. It's going to be costly. And I mean, as a driver, making up 2 positions, there's actually no better feeling. I would say 3 100%. Positions, but I mean, 3, but that's being greedy. You don't need 3 positions.
Well, he did not need asking twice there. He was ready, willing, and able, and those two just sort of duking it out. They sent themselves wide a little bit, made a few mistakes, and he did, as I say, not need asking twice. He just mugged them both. And that's what I was saying in race 1. You know, you've got to put yourself in the best position to take advantage of your opponent's mistakes and weaknesses when they manifest themselves. Now, as we follow in Bench in the Porsche there, just trying to make his way back up there. I think he's definitely lost touch now to Felix. I think Felix is sort of running away with us at the front now. So we're going to be back onto a McCall Bench battle again. Hopefully these two don't come together or make any mistakes. We can get these battles to rage all race long, because these guys are again trading in tenths of a second now on a lap. So I think this is going to build up into a really good fight.
A little bit of a backwards fight coming down. Will be up to Bench to defend off Morgan McCall. On the previous race, it was McCall on the defensive, so it will be interesting to see indeed. Jeff still leads on the likes of Mikkel Sundstrom in that 899 Ginetta. Over the line they go as they continue around here. Track temperature very similar to what we saw in race 1. 39 degrees is the peak of the track reading. and very, very hot indeed. Tires are going to be looking at themselves and questioning their career path, but unfortunately for them, being chucked around a circuit is obviously not an option. Jeff going to be trying to catch up to McCall. He'll also kind of know that if he does what he needs to do, McCall catches bench, and he stays within a couple of car lengths of them. That opportunity to get through will be there. Morgan McCall will make a move for sure. If the opportunity is there, if the door is left open, even if it's just a slight creak, he will put a nose and he will have a look. And the number 20 is certainly going to have to feel what it's like to defend. And it looks like, Simon, I'm not looking at the timing sheets time for time. It certainly looks like, just eyeballing it. And, Chad can sue me. But eyeballing it, Bench and McCall, looks like McCall is catching here.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it sort of swings backwards and forwards, but I think the sort of overall momentum is definitely with McCall. And it's going to be interesting to see how this battle plays out as he starts to put pressure on Bench then going forward in the race. The Aston Martin and Jeff there at the back, he is going to be under pressure soon from Sandstrom, I think, really. So again, those two, as we were saying at the beginning, those two would be better off working together to try and sort of drag themselves back up to second and third, so it could be a four-way battle for those podium positions. But I wonder if the monkey brain is going to get the better of him, and they'll just end up scrapping, as we saw in part one.
Just gotta keep it sort of, race focused for yourself. Know where you can and where you can't lose out. Varga running very wide on the exit there, which that right-hander we've seen catch a couple of drivers off. What that's going to cost him though is time, and the time that he's losing out is to Daly in that 197 M4, getting all over the back end. Oh, a little dabble onto the brakes. Both of them are going to have to react to that. Daly had to most certainly almost look for parking in that left-hander and will be sent a couple of car lengths off there. 15-second penalty going to be awarded out to that number 4 on circuit. Rodriguez will be handed a time penalty as Jordan Daly, Varga out of the corkscrew just went absolutely crazy. He just look at the car length that he's pulled from the splitter cam that we were on, and on the run up towards the top of the hill to coming over the timing line a couple of car lengths back. An update from those stewards between the 904 and the number 44. The number 4 takes out the 904 and does not wait. So that is why Rodriguez has that 15-second time penalty against his name.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I'm 100% behind the stewards with that one. That was a bit of a again, no malice in the mistake at all, but it does affect the race quite badly there as he took out 4 other cars. Just one of those things. I suppose it's not quite a racing incident. It's the first lap. You should be aware that there's people are going to be around you. Your tyres are still coming up to temperature. These guys know what they're doing, and that was completely avoidable for my money, mistake or not there. As we were watching Bench again, this battle is still raging on between him and McCall. The gap between those guys now is a second. I don't know, is Bench, is he eking out a little bit of time over McCall there, do you think?
I would say that as it stands, I think that he is maybe a little bit slower, but at the same time, I don't know if the last couple of laps are much to go by. I think, McCall's been recovering after whatever mistake he made.
Yeah.
And I think in that sort of mind space, maybe just going on a bit of a mental reset hasn't quite been able to I don't know, 12 minutes.
He's not got the time to do it, that's
between
the thing.
Bench and Felix and a second between McCall and Bench. So, if there's a fight to, be able to take there, it will be for McCall and Bench, as will it be for Sundstrom and Jeff, and will it be the same for Varga and Daly? All those cars that are a second or less. This is now where you stop playing around and you start getting actual work done.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think for me, when you sort of see a car within a second in front of you, and even if it's just, a hundredth here or a tenth there, you can see that car slightly bigger there. As we see a mistake there from the Mercedes Varga out in front there, who's just trying to eke a bit too much of the track there. And almost again there, he is trying very, very hard now to break Daly. But Daly's not giving up the fight. And as I was saying, yeah, if you're within a second and you're just seeing the car get a little bit bigger in front of you, that's enough for you to kind of just take an extra meter here, an extra meter there, and that all adds up over lap time. And it really is a psychological war, really, as much as anything else, because the leading car in front is seeing the car get bigger in its mirror behind him. That puts pressure on him, and it's whether the guy in front has the mental fortitude to resist that pressure and get the momentum to swing in their favours. Which that's one of the interesting things about motorsport, I guess.
It is. You're permanently looking for someone's breaking point, and you're always on the edge of your own limit. You're looking for your own personal best. You know that, in a space where you might be a little bit triggered, you have to then kind of reset yourself because a bigger mistake is going to be more costly out there. There's so many different factors in sim racing that, it's beyond just a little, sit behind a rig and pedal your way around a circuit. There's just millions of factors that people aren't always aware of. So it's nice to be able to touch on things that are outside there. Some updates in terms of penalties. Looks like Billy Octane getting himself a penalty. So that was between, let me try and see. So he actually got 5 seconds for failing to slow for a yellow and overtaking off track over the sand. So stewards were not impressed with some of his moves. Maybe impressed with his livery, but not his moves. And 5 seconds going to go his way.
They definitely do prefer it if you keep it on the black stuff as opposed to the sandy stuff. And in my experience, that tends to be the fast way around the circuit anyway. So probably better off sticking to that as we're following. I'm going to mess up his name. Arjona? Is that how we're saying that? I don't know if that's correct. Forgive me if that's wrong. We're following
It's probably Arjona.
Arjona,
sounds. It's probably 100%. I have to call him Arjona the entire time, but Arjona is probably more right. But then we might find that Arjona is wrong and Arjona was. You're probably right, to be honest. We'll get. You know what? We'll get feedback, and then next week you'll be like, I told you so.
Yeah, next week we can mess it up again by mistake again. But I've been really impressed with his driving. I don't think I've seen him making too many mistakes over this race. I know he's further down the field, but we have got 2 splits here. We've got a silver split and an AM split. Is that correct? Have I got the information there correct?
A pro and a silver split.
There you go. That's what I was searching for.
Yeah.
And so for me, personally speaking, it's not necessarily all about the podium, all about the top spots. As this battle's really, really heating up. I mean, overtaking around the outside is generally not going to work. But is he going to get the cut back on him? Gand is trying to muscle his way up the hill, but Arjona has sort of got that covered. But yeah, as I was sort of saying, for me, I like to watch people that are consistent. I like those guys that are sort of metronomic. You've kind of got to have a bit of a respect for those guys, and resisting the type of pressure he's now under from Gand. If there was a sort of maybe a man of the match for this class, I might be persuaded to give it to Arjona just for the consistency of his driving.
Yeah, it's been impressive, and like you said, race 2 not really going his way. Finds himself in 13th place under pressure from the likes of Gand. But it's not always going to be the easiest thing for drivers to come out here and bring a race pace level. Maybe not their favorite circuit, maybe in a car class that they're not familiar with. So, for all the drivers here, they're all doing a great job at it. You can see the timing sheet at the moment giving us an update of where everyone stands. Arjona is still going to be fighting it out with the likes of Aurelien Gand, I believe the first and surname is for that drive. If I've done it wrong, again, I apologize. There's a couple of new names here that we are getting used to. But up towards the front, one of those new names that I haven't had the pleasure of commentating is Mike Voigtbench in that number 20. He's put on 3.5 seconds over McCall. Or sorry, 3 seconds over McCall. He's 3.5 seconds behind Felix. Andre Felix just feel like he's entered the wrong race here. Not just the wrong class, just the wrong race. Like
yeah, for sure.
He's
Seen
ooh, someone just
car
went
running
shooting.
wide there, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say someone is very lucky to save that out there. I mean, that
that was a lucky break for sure. I mean, sort of.
Here it comes. Oh,
So
onto
easily done.
Ooh, there's this the mid save is going to come out, and right now it's going to be David Adams, who is that is going to be David Gill, who's putting pressure onto
Another mistake.
Oh, it is. It's just mistake after mistake, and the KTM now going to have the run. They're going to be in a flat-out drag race, and it does feel like a little bit of bullying going down from the Beefier Camaro. Later on the brakes, can the KTM go? Can he slow it down? And can he get through? It looks like he can. Not going to leave the cutback opportunity there for Rodriguez to benefit off. So Gill gets through. But for Gill, it's a long way down, especially considering these guys are not in class. They're not in. They're not fighting for any sort of position at this stage. Gill just is out of position, flat out.
I mean, that's probably about as clean an overtake as you're going to get at Laguna Seca. There was no sort of danger there. It was a fairly clinical move. And, sometimes when you're in that situation, discretion is the better part of valor rather than trying to weave over the track or trying to block the position and hold the position. As we see Billy Octane now hassling the Ginetta, which you quite rightly identified at the top of the show as being a UK brand. That was me not being up on my boutique car knowledge right at the very beginning of the show, so I'm gonna have to do better on that for the next broadcast. But I like the Ginettas.
Is it a British brand?
Yeah, they're based in Leeds.
Yes.
That well-known powerhouse of automotive engineering up north. Up north from me anyway. I'm sort of based down in the Midlands next to Silverstone. That's where I call home when I'm not in the commentary box with you, George.
Well, it's always good to to learn new things out there, and I think each broadcasting, I learned about them being a British manufacturer from a previous broadcast that I'd done. So it's all in and out. I'm definitely not going to go toe to toe against you when it comes to any sort of automotive engineering or knowledge on circuits or even geography, as it sounds. I mean, you sound like you pretty well positioned. I'm going to just call you Simon GPS Huber going forward. So I mean, where everybody is relative to someone. So if you get one wrong, I'll forgive you.
Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. I really do. I like these Ginettas. They're it's a little interesting brand, actually. If you check out some of their other models, they make some pretty serious sports car. The Ginetta we've got in front of us is sort of their sort of entry level, if you can call it that, type of sports car. And I like it. It's very small on track. It comes under a lot of pressure there from Billy coming into the Andretti hairpin. And to be honest with you, that paint job, I think that paint job is part of a sort of a psychological warfare almost, that paint job, because you're not going to miss it, are you?
No. So I mean, Mikael Sandstrom, ever since I've watched him drive in RCI, and of course he's a very big part of the RCI team as well, as is Billy Octane as a community member. So it's cool to see these two kind of battling it out. But that black and gold is just, it's something royal about it. And it always it has something that's quite finessey. I'm a big fan of it. Something I wanted to say about, Ginetta goes wide boy, and Billy Octane says, I'll take you for a drag up to the traffic lights, up to the top of the corkscrew. They go, the reverse end. They are going to come together. Octane going to get sent over. Octane going to know that he was sent there because of the move that was pulled. He's going to continue to try and get onto the loud pedal, but Sundstrom is going to leave that to the stewards to decide. I do think it was a little bit cheeky of Mikael to come back onto Billy there under the braking side of things. Didn't quite get himself slowed down enough. And good job from Billy to get the car back on circuit as quick as he did, but it is going to be a couple of car lengths behind the now Ginetta. What point I was going to say was that I kind of get the Ginetta being a little bit of like a mini Dodge Viper sort of look in terms of the body. So like when I was a boy, like the Dodge Viper was one of those cars that and he's distracting him and saying like, hey mates, that wasn't cool. Give me the position back and there'll be no problem. But Sundstrom is like, well, you know, I'm going to keep going. You've got a 5-second penalty. If I get a penalty, you know, maybe it negates itself out and we finish in the same position. So even if Sundstrom gets a 5-second, he knows that Octane has one. So maybe even some more psychological warfare between them.
Yeah, I think this is if there is a penalty coming, you know, for the Ginetta, then you know that's going to put them back on even Stevens really if they both get a 5-second penalty. So, you know, in some respects, I do hope he does get a 5-second penalty. Although, I will say I was not expecting to see that move happen in a car race. I've seen that maneuver done a few times in bike racing. Valentino Rossi pulled it on Casey Stoner, and then Marc Marquez pulled it on Valentino Rossi. The Billy Octane is hassling that Ginetta now, and is he going to get it done? Is he going to get it done?
Leader goes on to the final lap, so these guys will come across the line here and then go on to their final lap as well. And look at those lights being flashed on the splitter cam here. The 899 is going to be all over our screens. Inside line for Billy Octane. Use some of that slip late onto the brake. Does he manage to slow it down and turn it? He does. The cut back from the Ginetta. Can he get some more momentum out? But Billy Octane says absolutely nope, you can't, because I'm here and I've got this done. What a move coming out from the 33, but the charge from the Ginetta is back. He's trying. The right-hander's going to be the sequence that they throw themselves into. The 33 gets himself 2 car lengths, and that's the breathing room that Octane will need. Sundstrom will not be done yet. You know he won't be done. He's flashing his lights, and he's trying to find the drive. Does Octane run a little bit wider out? It has allowed the Ginetta to get closer. Where does Mikael Sundstrom go? He's looking, he can't. Up the hill they go. Wide goes the number 33, and it's now a flat-out drag between the two of them, getting closer and closer. Can he do something under braking? Can he get the switch back? He's gone defensive. Octane, he's made a mistake. He has, but look at Octane. He's gone on the outside now for the right-hander. He's going to set himself up. This is so close, Simon.
This is incredible, and they've both got 5-second penalties. So whatever happens with this battle, that is how it's going to finish for the race result, and it's going to go down to the last corner now. Sandstrom's got wide. He's going to try and get the cut back. Can he do it? I think Billy's just outsmarted him there a little bit. He just placed his car a little bit of a blocking maneuver there, and he's going to get the drag to the line. So I think that's that one done and dusted.
Oh, I mean, that is. We said it. If they both get time penalties, the drag to the line, Octane pulls one out of the hat. Felix takes yet another race win. This time round, Bench will find his second place, and Morgan McCall will finish on the podium for a second race in a row. He gets a third place this time around. Jeff, fourth. Octane and Sundstrom, fifth and sixth. That is even with their time penalties, because then Matcha finishes in 7th, 8th for Mathis, Varga in 9th, Daly in 10th. And we're currently looking at Adams and Arjona on their race down to the line. The last 2 cars to come over the line to finish will be those 2. Rodriguez will go over in 14th. Adams, he should wrap up 15th here, and he will do so indeed. Arjona will take home Oshona, or what was it? How do we say it again, Simon? You got it right.
Arjona, maybe?
Arjona. It sounds so foreign and so amazing. I think you've got it right. I think you nailed it, and I think I didn't nail it. But neither way, the drivers nailed both of those races, and they were so good to watch. GT4s bring exciting racing. I mean, Simon, any takeaway points there?
I was kind of half expecting it, but wasn't expecting it to be the battle royale that it ended up being. There was non-stop action from start to finish. There were a lot fewer mistakes in that race. I feel there was obviously we had the spin at the beginning of the race and a couple of people going wide and maybe the odd tank slapper, but certainly not the number of spins that we had in the first race. So I think this 2-race format in an hour, I think it lends itself well. You kind of you take the first race as a race, obviously, you take that fairly seriously, but it's kind of a dialing in session for the follow-up race. And what that means is that everybody's a little bit more consistent. Their braking markers are a little bit more dialed in. They're kind of a bit more used to driving with the other cars on circuit, and it just makes for amazing racing from start to finish. And it just feels like the races have started and finished, in a few seconds, and it's been 30 minutes. I can't quite believe it. So this has been a baptism of fire for me in the commentary box and in GT4 racing. I'd definitely like to see more of this going forward. And as it happens, we've got another race next weekend. So that's good.
It was super, Simon. It was so good to have you here. So massive thanks to you. Big shout out to Nick Setnick for doing all the camera work behind the scenes. My name has been George Smith. It's been so good to have you guys here with us at Racing Club International. That wraps up the GT4 event at Laguna Seca. If you liked what you saw, of course, you can subscribe, leave a little cheeky like. There's some pretty cool things over on our Discord as well. So if you do want to, all the links are below. Our social medias, it's Racing Club International. Go and follow us. We try and post some cool things over on Instagram, some cool pictures of some of the cars. It's all about the social media. And if you guys can support us in those ways, we appreciate it. So if you have enjoyed it, we will see you again tomorrow. We will be back for some Porsche Cup action. I'll be here with Ryan and Stewie. And then, of course, on the 29th of November is the GT3s at Imola, as far as I understand. So there's plenty of action coming up and broadcast for days. We will see you very, very soon. I'll see you tomorrow night for the Porsche Cup. Thanks again for joining, and have a wonderful evening.